Well, like Mr. Bell, you might say that I had an inventive eye for investigating things myself. Take this, for instance. The glasses which man sees best with at a distance are not the same as the one he needs for reading. And so I invented bifocal lenses. Finding it troublesome to change spectacles continually for reading or seeing at a distance, I had the lenses cut in half, and half of each kind placed in the same frame. And by this means, I have only to move my eyes up or down when I want to see distinctly far or near. Always the proper lenses are ready. And if you're in the market for some bifocals, well, I know where you can buy a good used pair. But honestly, I didn't bring up the subject of optics to brag about my invention, but to introduce another important tool in the world of communication. This tool is the camera. Just as the lens in my bifocals makes it possible for me to receive a clear image of a subject, the lens in the camera produces a clear image on film. But things have changed a lot since the British scientist William Talbot and the Frenchman Louis Daguerre began experimenting with the first practical photographic materials in the 1830s. As a church communication leader, can you imagine what it would be like to conduct your work without a camera? The camera opens countless windows of opportunity for recording and sharing information. I can't wait to guide you into the magic of photography during Lesson 6. You'll not only learn how to take better pictures, but we'll take a field trip to a modern photo lab and see how film is processed and prints are made. You've probably heard about a field trip I took as a young man in Philadelphia. I've never been able to live that experience down. In fact, the day I put that kite aloft in an electrical storm was nearly my last day on Earth. My earnest involvement in experimenting with electricity really began shortly after I turned my printing business over to a capable and honest young man. And with free time on my hands and profits coming in, I purchased, for amusement, mind you, the apparatus of a Dr. Spencer from Scotland. He had been using, for electrical experiments, a gadget to make a spark. Before long, written accounts of my experiments were being read in the Royal Society back in England. I wish I could say that they were all received as welcome discoveries. One paper, in which I stated that lightning was equated with electricity, nearly brought down the house with laughter when it was read to the society. And now, if laughter is good medicine, they certainly must have been a healthy bunch. But sometime later, members of the society tried my experiments themselves and then verified that my claims were true. And soon I received more than amends for the slight which they had before treated me. Without making application or submitting normal dues, I was voted into membership of the society. I share this personal experience to encourage you as church communication leaders. Your writings may not always seem appreciated, but persevere. Keep telling it as you see it, and in time, you will receive your reward. As I look back, I'm relieved that I didn't let criticism get me down. If I had, you probably wouldn't be seeing this program today. Your house would lack any modern appliances. You wouldn't enjoy the entertainment and the company of a radio or television. And imagine all the conveniences you'd miss without electricity. Aren't you glad you don't have to rely on smoke signals to talk with a friend in a neighboring town? Oh, I suppose some smart inventor like Thomas Edison would have come along and figured out electricity sooner or later. But I still say electricity has opened an entire world of creative ways in which to communicate. And one of those avenues is radio.
When a radio announcer speaks into a microphone, a sensitive diaphragm in the microphone changes his or her words into electrical energy. This energy is superimposed on a carrier frequency by a device known as a transmitter and sent to an antenna mounted on a tower where it is radiated into the air, where it becomes accessible to a receiver. Today, very few radio programs are actually broadcast live over the air. Announcers usually speak between segments of pre-recorded material. Cassette tapes, record albums, compact discs, reel-to-reel tapes are some of the modern vehicles for storing pre-recorded material.
This represents an entire area of communication that wasn't even dreamed of in my day. This represents an entire area of communication that wasn't even dreamed of in my day. This is simply amazing. With an invention like this, if I was in radio, I could record an entire day's programming, have my station engineer keep it rolling, and take in the church picnic while listening to myself on the radio. And as if voices in the air weren't enough to boggle the mind, well, then came pictures. Now it became possible not only to listen to your favorite preacher on the radio, you could watch him on television in the comfort of your home. Add to this the possibility of bouncing the program off a satellite out in space, and you can watch someone speaking live from clear around the world. These communication channels, which have given society the electronic church, have produced some interesting challenges. To the local clergy, there is added competition from the television preacher for new parishioners. To the religiously oriented person, there is a choice of enjoying a service on radio or television, or of getting ready to attend the service in person. In Lesson 7, we'll see a wide variety of ways your church can use radio and television, whether your budget is large or non-existent. We'll also visit the Adventist Media Center in Newbury Park, California, and the Three Angels Broadcasting Satellite Network to see the production of both radio and television programs. In my day, the pastor evangelist didn't have all this competition getting the attention of the people. It wasn't difficult to attract a crowd. In your world, well, it's a lot different because of all the noise. Communication experts use the word noise to identify anything that distracts one's attention from receiving a message.
A busy street corner like this could certainly be a source of distraction if you were here trying to tell me some important news. This noise factor, however, doesn't refer to sounds alone. Even a deaf person standing on this corner would be bombarded by noise.
Actually, there is a series of steps which occurs any time a complete process of communication takes place. The great thinker Aristotle suggested that communication is directly related to the speaker, the speech, and the audience. The Latin word communicatus, from which we get the word communication, means something shared. In order for real communication to take place, you must have a speaker, a speech, and an audience which then responds. Only then is communication something shared.
If communication is really something shared, then it is a two-way street. The sender must receive a response from a receiver. It's easy to talk, to give someone a piece of your mind. It's another thing to sit back and listen, and true communication involves both. One of my greatest pleasures was talking with people, getting inside their heads, as some might say. These treasured opportunities to visit were the source of inspiration for many of my columns in the Pennsylvania Gazette. It was my personal opinion that if one person would ask me a question of advice, well, there were hundreds of others who would be interested in the answer. Thus, column titles such as On Conversation and On Ill-Natured Speaking came about. My advice, as you might conclude, was to place listening above speaking as the key ingredient in successful communication. As a local church communication leader, you have tremendous opportunities to listen, respond by picking up your camera and pen, and then share the news of your church with your community. In this information age, it is amazing what one small voice, one tiny pen, one personal computer can do. Your newspaper article, your radio announcement, your television spot can be read or heard by thousands of people in one day. Yes, each church communicator has a responsibility in what may at times seem like a limited sphere of influence. But as each communication team member does his or her part, it isn't long before the message has been shared around the world. I would give my eye teeth just to be a link in the chain representing the church communication team in the 20th century. But I guess my arrival in this world was about 200 years premature. And at the same time, your trip back in time has made me realize that my efforts helped pave the way for the future of communication. A thought like that is enough to put a skip in any old communicator's step and say, thanks for the invitation to guide you into the fascinating world of communication. This first lesson has really been fun, and it's brought back some old memories and set the stage for a lot of new experiences. Now that we're warmed up by an old Franklin stove, no doubt, it's time to turn up the heat. We're going to cover so much ground during the next 7 lessons, your heels will be smoking. And while you put on your walking shoes, this old man is going to get moving. I'm glad we came to visit in your church neighborhood today because it presents the perfect setting to bring up our second topic, church awareness. Do your church's neighbors know you exist? Have they even a hint of what you stand for? Are they aware what you have to offer the community? When you catch up with me, we'll tackle these questions and much more in our next lesson.